that in mind. It takes a bit of time to prepare the stream. Once the stream is prepared, we will...
Do you want us to mute when we're not? No.
No need. We'll keep the conversation going.
Grand.
Because nobody, like, you'd want to seriously be... Okay, I'm going to mute that. So now we're live. So we're live on YouTube. Yay! Nobody on Twitter knows, no, the world doesn't know, but they will know as soon as I start, as soon as I share the link. So this is where I'm going to seem a bit distracted, but
you're doing your stuff.
Yeah, I'll be doing my stuff. I'm also going to record it and record it to the cloud because that worked so well the last time. And that is it. I'm also going to change the view to speaker view. That should be good. And live on YouTube and recording. Speaker view changed to YouTube. Okay, I have nothing else to do but to mute my microphone and hand things over to Helen. If you need me to jump in, just roar at me.
Okay.
I'll be here doing my thing, and as long as I don't talk, the camera won't go to me. So Helen,
okay,
if you want to take things over whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. So welcome everyone to another CESI Staffroom. So this evening we have delighted to have Deirdre Hodson, who's going to be our keynote speaker at the CESI conference this Saturday morning. So Deirdre, I'm not going to, I'm going to let you sort of explain what you're up to, and that'll be great. And we're thrilled to have you.
Yeah, listen, lovely to be here this evening. Looking forward to Saturday as well. Well, look, I'm from Dublin, but I'm in Brussels. I live in Belgium, and I work for the European Commission. So I'm working in the policy team, working around kind of schools and digital technology in education. So yeah, no, I'll be speaking at CESI on Saturday, and really happy to kind of just share a few thoughts and have a bit of a chit chat this evening.
Yeah, great.
So lovely to be here. Thanks a million.
Thank you. So what we're going to be talking about this evening is, well, certainly sort of the theme of the start of the program or the webinar is looking at digital learning planning. So Dermot, do you want to talk about that? You've got a video and I have a video from a second level, Dermot is from primary level, and then Deirdre, you'll then, this kind of the format is you talk about, sort of something sort of special topic, and then Dermot has these famous 8 questions. Okay, and that's basically where we're going. Okay, Dermot, what do you want to say? How are you doing there?
Absolutely brilliant, Helen. Yeah, thank you, and huge welcome to Deirdre as well. Great to see you, Deirdre, and thanks so much for taking your time to join us on the webinar as well. So I suppose, Helen, we're looking at the self-evaluation of digital skills, I think is the theme that we went with this week. So I will, without further ado, then I guess I will share my screen and I will play my video of self-evaluation of digital skills at primary level. So can you see that screen? That screen is sharing all right?
Yeah, that's great.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll hit play on this video. In this short video, we're going to look at the self-evaluation of digital skills. So firstly, what I like to do is to use the Unesco ICT CFT. So that's the Unesco ICT Competence Framework for Teachers as a broad framework for planning my own practice. To explain quickly, the Unesco ICT CFT includes 6 interwoven categories, which are understanding ICT in education, curriculum and assessment, pedagogy, the application of digital skills, organisation and administration, and teacher professional learning. Then there are 3 phases: competence, and they include knowledge acquisition, knowledge deepening, and knowledge creation. So the pedagogy strand, there is ICT enhanced learning. Then in the knowledge deepening phase, it becomes complex problem solving, and in the knowledge creation phase it becomes self-management. If you look at the application of digital skills, so in the knowledge acquisition phase it would be application, the knowledge deepening phase it would be infusion, and knowledge creation phase then it would be transformation. So you're using digital tools in order to try and transform your practice. So here's how it looks then in practice. So obviously you would have to acquire some understanding of the digital learning framework. Knowledge deepening, then you might be aligning with the aiming for effective practice, and knowledge creation aiming for highly effective practice. Curriculum and assessment, then be looking at textbooks, ebooks, moving on to more guided discovery activities such as Ashter, and then moving into 21st century learning, knowledge economy style groups. In pedagogy, then, very simply I would align those as traditional, constructivist and socio-cultural. For digital skills, then, in knowledge acquisition, that would be where the students use digital tools in order to acquire skills. They might use quizzing, they might use some applications for teaching and learning, you might use the interactive whiteboard. For knowledge deepening, then, you might move on to Scratch, Makey-Makeys, presentations which are self-guided, and then in knowledge creation you would give them skills such as Microsoft Make Code, utilizing microbits then to design and create new artifacts, and Minecraft as well to enable them to explore their creativity and to develop maybe deeper mental models of problem spaces. For your organization and administration, you would have your traditional seating, groups and group work, and then in our school we try to include the Green Schools, the Digital Youth Media Group. We try to hand over control of those to the students to enable them to gain experience of real world problem solving. And then teacher professional learning, we would have in-school support, maybe where we'd look at G Suite. Then some members of our staff are part of the IPPN, the INTO, CESI, and then in school we're utilising the Furbridge framework, where we're working collaboratively on an innovative project. At the end of all of that, then, in order to assess what you've done, we can obviously use the digital learning framework. So we have our 8 categories: learner outcomes, learner experiences, teacher individual practice, collective and collaborative practice, leading teaching and learning, managing the organisation, leading school development and developing leadership capacity, and then we have our standard, our effective practice, and our highly effective practice. So that's it, short and sweet this week, Helen, thank God.
No, it's fantastic. You know, I always learn something from your videos, Dermot, always, you know, it's really, really interesting. Okay, so what interesting now, I'm going to I focus on the digital learning planning, sort of the documents that, you know, primary and post-primary schools would have. And I suppose in a way, Deirdre, this kind of like I stopped short of actually using the tool, but you're going to be talking about that selfie
Exactly,
tool.
exactly.
So
I'm going to give you a bit of the backstory on selfie and how it works. Yeah.
So that's it. Okay, so I'm going to share out my screen here, and okay. Okay, so everyone should see that. Is that okay? In this short video, I'm just going to explore planning for your digital learning framework document. So you may have already put this document together. Certainly I have, but it's good each time you come around and look at it to refresh on what is expected. And so the dlplanning.ie website developed by PDST is really excellent, brilliant resource, in fact. So on its homepage, you can choose obviously primary or post-primary. So I will go to post-primary, but before I do that, it's important to scroll down the page and kind of just get a sense of the CPD that's available. Okay, so we can still do it online through teachercpd.ie. There's lots of resources and videos there, but also to remember the digital learning planning cycle, and that critically that this document, it aligns in with the school SIT plan. And so that's why it's really important to talk with your management, your senior management team, so that it aligns with that. And not only to talk with senior management team in the process of documenting this, talking with all of the different communities within the school, teachers, staff, students, and the broader school community. So that's the kind of the cycle there. And then also what's really important is that we have these tools and resources, and really critically is that it is the planning template here, and that the digital learning framework document, whether primary or post-primary, sits on top of the documentation about self-evaluation of schools in itself. So it's important to see how it sits within the broader context as well. So just before we go on to that learning plan template itself, if you click here on, let's say, the post-primary schools. So you've got our teaching and learning, our leadership and management. So that's what I'm saying. You just have to be clear what your SIP plan is focused on. And then from there, let's say we stick to teaching and learning. We've got domain 1, 2, 3, and 4. And choose, your one of the learner outcomes. And from there, there's lots of different resources, and you can explore that by going through these web pages. But flicking over now to the actual template itself that I've just downloaded, you may already have one, certainly I do, but it's really good always to go back and reflect and refresh on what you've done before and what, the broader context of everything. So you can fill in all these different aspects of it, and the dimensions and the standards. And then again, the critical thing, that conversation that you have with the wider school community about your strengths, what you need to focus on, and the targets, and these SMART tasks. So that's effectively it. It does take time, but certainly given the times that we are currently schooling in, the digital learning plan is really critical. Okay, that's it then. Let's stop that now. So that's basically,
Brilliant.
I think it kind of fits in, I think, very nicely, Deirdre, with what you're going to talk about in selfies.
Yeah, and I know that
hand it over to you.
website as well. It's really good. I love those little videos where they go into schools, and it's like, well, how am I using technology as a chemistry teacher, or in primary PE class, or they're really nice illustrations. Okay, I'm going to share the screen now. Give me a sec.
That's okay. So I suppose, and Dermot, you probably agree, it's really interesting to see how, like primary and post-primary, there's a lot of, there's the pattern of similarities there,
Yeah, it's great to have a joined up system, isn't it? Like it's a huge benefit where you understand, I suppose, to a certain to a certain level exactly where we're coming from, or where the kids should be coming from as well then. And I suppose that'll feed in long term into maybe a more coherent. I know you've got computer science at secondary level or post-primary level. It'd be lovely to have something at primary level.
Maybe can we talk about that later?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk, that's for definitely.
That can be part 2. Can you see my slides? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this tool that we built for schools called Selfie, but just to kind of maybe step back a bit and talk just in a couple of sentences what we do in the European Commission. So, what is our role in all of this? I mean, it's not like other EU areas like agriculture or trade or fisheries. So when it comes to education, we don't have any kind of laws or legislation. So each of the countries obviously designs and runs their own education system. But where we come in is really to kind of link and connect countries, I suppose, a bit like kind of CESI does. You know what I mean? We would be the ones kind of bringing people together to have countries collaborate and share experience. And there's a real willingness to share as well. I think countries are keen to see what other countries are doing in terms of kind of digital learning. So I've been running a network on digital education, which brings together the different departments of education, organizations like the PDST and their equivalents, social partners as well, NGOs working in education. So it's a really nice network. So I'll be talking a little bit about their role in this in a moment. So we do kind of policy coordination, exchange of ideas, best practice. We have our Erasmus funding program as well. So that's like a little bit of what we do. So we're looking, I mean, in our team, we'd be looking at the digital skills piece. So the fact that, we know that all our learners are growing up in this increasingly digital world, and they need to be able to use these technologies in critical and creative ways, not just as kind of passive consumers. And that's, it's of course it's about a change in jobs market where digital skills will be critical, but it's much bigger picture than that. It's about societal change, and just getting them ready for this very digitally infused world that they're in. So we'd be looking at the skills piece and the pedagogical use of technologies piece. So just to give that as a bit of a backstory. So in the next few slides, I'm just going to talk about Selfie, which is this online planning tool for schools. I really hope that some people watching tonight have used it, can maybe share their experience. So just get the acronym out of the way. We love a good acronym in the European Commission. So it stands for self-reflection, effective learning, fostering innovation through EdTech. But what I like about the name is it's really about a school taking a snapshot or a selfie of where they're at in their journey of using technology to really help in that kind of planning piece that Helen was talking about. So it really is like a diagnostics tool and a planning tool that involves the whole school community, as I'll show you in a moment. So it started as a really small pilot project actually back in 2017, and it's really grown now. And we have over 30 language versions, including a Gaeilge version, just to give that a plug. So it all began when we did a framework. Dermot, you were talking about the UNESCO framework. We have frameworks. I'm actually a bit of a frameworks nerd. So we had a framework on like, what does it mean to be a digitally effective or digitally ready organization in education today? So as a university, as a school, as an adult learning college, how can I effectively embed technology into teaching and learning? So this won't come as a surprise for you, but for us, it's a we feel that it should be a holistic approach. Of course, infrastructure is vital. It's the backbone in a lot of this, but you really need to look at the organization as a whole. You need to have the leadership and the governance piece. You need to look at curriculum. You need to look at teacher PD, at assessment, at student digital skills. So this is really the kind of holistic approach to digital change, and it's about organizational change, really. So we worked on that framework with this group that I mentioned, the digital education group, and that was back in, I think we published it at the end of 2015. So from that, there was a great interest in that framework, and countries were translating it and using it. But the message we were getting from the group is whether we could build something from that framework, which, like all frameworks, is a bit on the abstract level. So could we take it and actually build something practical that the institutions could use? So rather than start with all sectors of education, which we thought would kind of be mission impossible, we said, okay, let's work on the schools sector. So we'll build, rather than trying to design something that would fit the university space and whatever, we said, right, we'll start with schools. And even that, there's a bit of a gulf as you're starting this project and you're thinking, oh my God, can we really do this? Like take a piece of kind of research and something abstract and turn it into something, kind of practical and usable. But yeah, I'll share a bit about how we went around that. So what we wanted to do, we had to look at different tools out there, and what we wanted to do is really bring the perspective of the teaching staff, the school leaders, and the students. We really wanted to have the student voice in there, because students actually, they have a lot of views on how technology is used and about how their own digital skills are being developed in schools. So we really wanted to bring that in. So that was one of the kind of design principles that we had in mind. And we also wanted to design that it wasn't for the kind of innovator schools or the ones that are, really comfortable with using technology, because we really feel it's a journey. So we wanted it to be able to be used by all schools in Europe, whatever, rural, urban, big, small, whatever. So that was a really important piece for us as well. And because, every school is different. I mean, you all know that. We really wanted to make Selfie flexible. So what we did is the statements and questions that you reflect on within the tool. There's a core set of questions, and then you can drag and drop some optional questions in as you set up the the questions, and then you can actually create your own questions, so up to 10 questions. So say you've been, as a school, you've been teaching something on robotics or internet safety, whatever, and you feel that the questions don't cover that in enough depth, you can add your own questions as well. And then when the students answer the questions, the teachers, school leaders, it's all done in an anonymous way, of course, to allow for, honest and open reflection. And then, yeah, it looks at different areas of school life and practice. Now, those areas would reflect back to the framework and that really complex wheel that I showed you. So there'd be questions in there on leadership and governance, CPD, assessment. So, the students don't get to answer all the questions, only ones that are relevant to them. And we've tailored the questions more to the primary level. So we reckon from around 9 years up that the students can answer the questions. They're a bit simplified for 9 to 11. And then more questions for the kind of secondary level students. So in all these different areas. Just to throw up a few examples of the questions, I'm going to give you a link to the full list of questions that you can see in there. So, on leadership, about, the kind of planning, and do we review progress, infrastructure, is there tech support in place, the PD, opportunities, assessment, student digital competence. So a range of different questions, and it's all, an answer scale of kind of 1 to 5. And, we wanted to design this together with students, teachers and school leaders. That was really important to us from the outset. We'd lots of people in Ireland. Sean Gallagher, you probably know, was very involved in the early days of designing selfies. So, we're not a big tech company. We don't design products. We're not Apple or Microsoft or whatever. But, we really wanted to kind of bring students and schools in and test very early kind of beta versions of the tool and get their feedback as well. So we had, tested the questions on kids. It was actually kids in the UK that gave us feedback, and then we were able to kind of simplify the language. So the tool is totally open to when you can use it. We close it a couple of times a year with the IT team. We do a little bit of a cleanup, but you can pretty much choose to run Selfie anytime you want. So like what you actually get at the end of all of this, you set it up, as I explained, it's modular, it's flexible, you can add your questions. So at the end of all of that, you get an automatically generated report where you get all of this data back in a very, what we hope, very interactive and kind of visual way. And you can kind of see as a school what's working well, maybe where you need to improve, and what the priorities should be. I think it helps in that kind of planning piece. And you can also see the gaps in a way. Maybe the students feel that something is working fine, whereas the teachers think maybe it's not working as well, or vice versa. So it can kind of, help you work out what, where you should focus your planning, I suppose, and your priorities. So yeah, only the school has access to that report. They can choose to share it if they want with other schools, but that belongs to the school itself. And then you can, display your data in different ways as well. And then if you want, the school can get a certificate for taking part, or we offer a digital badge as well. And yeah, look, all of this is like, I think the tech is about the conversations in a way, you know what I mean? It's about kind of getting that conversation going on the why of technology use, and what is it that we're using technology for, and to allow you to kind of plan, and to, the idea is you can go back and use Selfie on a regular basis, and you can actually compare your results year on year. So maybe if you've had a focus on digital assessment, you could then go back and run Selfie the following year and see if there's any change in the feedback. So like I said, it started off as a pretty small scale project. Our original plan was to pilot in 4 countries, and we ended up having 14 countries that were really interested in running with this tool, actually. And I think when you work with the departments of education, they can often have, nearly every country now has a strategy or a digital strategy, but I think often the missing piece is, you need that kind of top down, I think, vision and leadership, and it often comes with funding or PD opportunities. But the unit of change is ultimately the school, and how can you kind of help or empower the schools to kind of innovate. So I think a lot of departments of education saw the kind of interest in this, and they could see how it plugged into maybe their own programs as well. Like in Cyprus, they had an innovative schools program running, so they said, actually, Selfie could be a good diagnostics tool in that. So it's been really nice to kind of watch the uptake across Europe. The Flemish use it quite a lot. They would have quite a strong ICT kind of coordinator network, so the ICT coordinators found it very useful for planning. Spain has been a huge user of Selfie. They've designed a MOOC for their schools and teachers using it as well. And Serbia has run a lot of training programs based around selfie as well. So in some ways it can be a kind of hook to get conversations going around technology use. And yeah, so it's a tool, but also there's a kind of a growing community around the tool as well. And just to say, we had a fantastic, the other way you look back at the times you could travel, we had a really nice kind of selfie conference in Madrid, hosted by the Spanish Department of Education. And the student voice has always been important to us, and it was a really nice moment. We had a transition year student, Maeve from Kinvara and Galway, that opened that event, and it was just amazing to give the first word to a student, and she just gave the most kind of phenomenal speech about technology use in her school and how Kinvara through technology could be linked with the rest of the world, and it was just fabulous. So that was just really great, and we got together talking about how countries are using the tool and what we could improve. So yeah, so that's a little bit the kind of backstory to Selfie, and I think we're up to, I checked the other day, 850,000 users in 52 countries. So it's really quite a big uptake, and we've had countries, the Western Balkan countries have been really keen because they didn't really have anything around digital planning. So for them, it really, plugged a gap. And Turkish schools are using it a lot. Iceland, there's an Icelandic version now. So yeah, it's been great to kind of watch the kind of uptake of Selfie, and kind of countries asking could they translate it into their language. And yeah, so it's really grown from a pilot project to something quite big. And just to give a plug to a webinar that the team are doing on, bringing some schools together that are using Selfie. There's Irish schools in there as well. So that's on the 3rd of March. I'll put the link later on so you can sign up. So that's a tool that exists and is out there, and hopefully some people will be familiar with it and have used it. And just to say that we're designing a new one at the moment, and that's a self-reflection tool for teachers in primary and secondary schools, so to help them reflect on their own digital competence. So really linked to what Dermot was talking about, we have our own rival framework, the European Framework for the Digital Competence of Educators, so we can compare and contrast the two. Ours looks like a sweet. I always think of the kind of sweets, in the Christmas box of sweets, So what we think about when we talk about teacher digital competence, we think about I think teachers have that kind of double challenge, their own kind of how they use digital technologies in their own kind of professional practice, for their own, for online learning, for collaborating with other teachers, for teaching and learning. But then they have the challenge of also supporting student digital skills development as well. So that's a little bit of the suite on the right hand side. So we have a framework. It's a few years old now, and lots of countries are using it. There's a load of Erasmus projects using it as well. So like with Selfie, we're building a tool off that. There's the different levels of expertise. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to be innovator level. You can be maybe strong in one field and you need extra support in another field. So I think it's all about this journey as well of kind of because technologies change, and I think it's about kind of leveling up in a way and just identifying where your own kind of learning needs are. So yeah, that's where we are right now. It's funny, like having designed the Selfie for schools tool with them. We work together with our research department, who are fantastic. So it's us and the education department working together with research, and we have some amazing developers and graphic designers we work with there. So we're in the middle of kind of running it. We ran a very, very early kind of pilot with teachers in Italy, Portugal, Lithuania, and Estonia. There are 4 test countries, and we're looking at the feedback now, and then we're going to be putting a beta version out for testing in April. And yeah, like working in that feedback around May, June, and then getting this tool ready for translation over the summer. So in 24 official EU languages, we'll have a Gaeilge version as well. And all going well, we'll be ready to launch in October. So fingers crossed. So that'll be the kind of, it'll complement, I think, the tool for schools, which is about the kind of planning and the whole school approach. And this is really for teachers, and we're building in a feature that teams of teachers can work together to do the self-reflection and kind of share and discuss their results. So I've probably taught way too much, have I?
That is phenomenal, Deirdre.
I hope I didn't go on too much.
It's
Sorry.
amazing, and it's a privilege to to hear you talk sort of firsthand about it. I don't know, Dermot, what you think about that. It's just because I've heard about it a while ago, and I just literally you know, I haven't had time, and I want to implement the self, you know, to build up on our digital learning planning document and then see that. But now we have, like, as you say, that for teachers as well. So that would be, I think it's great.
No, it's been really great to work, and it's lovely because when you work in like a lot of what I do is policy, but I love kind of switching to the projects which are about building, and I love working with IT developers and the graphic designers and thinking about the design principles, and so I'm like really enjoying this project. And yeah, no, it's been a great journey, and I was lucky to work I was the project lead in education, and was working with a Greek colleague, Pan Campilis, and who was just fantastic. And Pan was a teacher and a school leader in Greece, and I think from the outset he wanted to keep this really kind of practical. And of course, researchers have a tendency to want to ask loads of questions, and you know, but you're thinking time is the one thing that every teacher and school leader is lacking everywhere in Europe. So we needed to make sure that you could complete this, you know, that it could be quick to set up and quick to run. And yeah, so it's been a great journey, and lovely to see countries kind of taking it and running with it as well.
Yeah, you've had huge uptake there. It's phenomenal
It
numbers
is,
there that you're
yeah,
talking
no,
about.
it's big.
Yeah.
And what I should have mentioned as well, over the summer we put in questions on remote teaching and learning as well. Now, you know, the DNA of Selfie is about digital learning, of course, so loads of the questions in there were relevant to what we're going through now. But we also, over the summer, we took some time to really think about, you know, there needed to be questions there on the home learning environment in terms of, you know, infrastructure and technology and, you know, tech support. Now people are actually off site. So we added and I'll give you the link to all of those questions. You can see the ones on remote learning as well, because, you know, we want to make sure that it stays relevant for the kind of context we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this might be a hard question to answer. How did you lay out how you measure competence? You mentioned this journey from, I forget what the first part, the last part was innovator, I believe.
Yeah.
That journey is the key. I think that makes sense to so many
Yeah,
people.
absolutely. And it's really like, you know what I mean? Because I think it is a journey and it doesn't stop. And you'd never expect anybody to be kind of innovator level in anything. But I think, you know, there's some teachers that would be very comfortable around, you know, social media use, but maybe less on copyright and GDPR issues. And, you know, or then you might have teams of teachers kind of working together, and some have strengths in one area and others in others. So, you know, I think it's about an ongoing thing. And I don't think you ever stop really when it comes to kind of knowing about technology. And, you know, so yeah, I mean, the levels for us are important. And what we want to do with the tool, and we were talking to the developers and the graphic designers, is about, you know, motivation. And we, you know, it's kind of tricky as well, because you don't want to turn people off, or, you know, like all of you guys use a lot of technology, and you know, but if you've someone more reluctant coming to this and they're like, oh, self-reflection on this, do I really want to do it? And you know, you want to try and kind of inspire them and motivate them to kind of, you know, use the results. And it's only the start of a journey. These tools aren't a panacea, they don't solve your issues for you, but they can just give you some, I think, indication of where to go, kind of a journey map, if you like.
And the other thing you mentioned there, Deirdre, was how it's holistic. It's about organizational change.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and if you think of the first kind of digital strategies from the different countries, that were very kind of IT led in a way, and I think now when you look at them, it's a much more kind of mature kind of conversation about, actually it's about the people rather than the technology, and it's about breaking silos and getting those conversations going and thinking, you know, I think it's the why. And some schools said to us, like, it's the first time they really talked about why they're using technology as well. So, you know, it's the people part in all of this I'm really interested in as well. Yeah, so definitely organizational change. And you know, that again, a bit like the teachers, I think it's an ongoing process in a way, because you know, schools change and staff change and students change. So you know, it's not like you tick a box and you're digitally okay. I think it's a journey as well at the school level.
Great. I think just in terms of, you just mentioned there, Deirdre, about you know, people being at the heart of it, and I think this brings us on very nicely to your Dermot's questions. You know,
Oh, the questions! Oh God, that was very stressful.
so we're now
They're very hard.
So these are researcher questions, but you have 1 minute to answer each of them.
No, seriously.
Okay.
Some of them I want to skip, but some of them I probably blab on too much.
But it's to get, it's to bring the, you know, to get the sense of you as a person. And I think it's brilliant to have you, you know, before the conference on Saturday. So Dermot, over to you.
Yeah, it's our CESI selfie, Deirdre. Here, yeah. These are the questions people don't get to ask. Yeah, okay. So look, these have been called profound and profoundly annoying. These 8 questions. So people seem to sit in between the two. So are
Do I
you
get a
ready?
mark at the end, or is
Do
it
you
just
get? You
no?
don't.
You
No,
don't
you
grade
don't.
me, no.
No, not
Self-reflection,
whatsoever.
right?
No. Although, if you want to work together, maybe we could do something on it. Okay, question 1, Deirdre, if you're ready. So question 1 is, who or what triggered your interest in the educational use of technology?
Well, I probably came in more through the digital door, I think, than the education door. I was working more in kind of government digital services. So, how governments deliver services online and how that can be improved. So, like the organizational change thing there and working across silos. And then a job came up in the education department in the commission. I've been in the commission a long time, but the previous job was on a government technology use. So look, I went to the first event I went to was an Eden conference, and that's the network of online learning colleges. And I just fell in love with the whole edtech space. I was talking to learning technologists, and I realized it's the intersection of learning and user experience, organizational change, and technology. And I just thought this is for me. And I ended up doing a degree I've just finished with the University of Edinburgh on digital education. So it was kind of the day job, and I was a student at night, like looking at it from more a researcher point of view. So yeah, got hooked on it.
Brilliant, very interesting. So what is your primary motivation behind your educational use of technology?
Um, I suppose like in the kind of pre-COVID days when you could travel, I was lucky enough to kind of go and visit classrooms like in different parts of Europe, and you'd see kids use technology, and there was just a great kind of buzz in the room and the excitement. And I think if it's used well, it can make learning really kind of meaningful and engaging as well. And the classrooms were noisy, there was a buzz, the kids were building stuff with technology. And there's moments like that you kind of go, yeah, I get it, this is what learning should look like actually. So yeah.
Brilliant, really interesting. Okay, question 3. So then describe in your experience effective educational use of technology in formal education.
God, that's a biggie, like I suppose effective is the key word there. Before we started our course with Edinburgh, the only book they made us read was Distrusting Educational Technology by Neil Selwyn. And I think they wanted to beat any kind of love of technology out of us. I think on that course you had to always keep a critical eye about technology use, and I think that's something I really try and do, rather than kind of drink the Kool-Aid and say it's always good. I think it's important that you keep an eye on the Samir model. It's about kind of redefining so it's not about just making digital versions of things. It's about where is the transformative piece. I suppose that's the bit that fascinates me really. I think just because it's digital doesn't mean it's better. And I think edtech is a big market as well, and there's a lot of people making big claims around edtech. I don't know if you've been to the Bet Fair in London, which is amazing and great to network with people, but all of these kind of solutions and products, and I think it's important to really focus on the kind of pedagogy and what are the learning goals and how can technology help me with that. So yeah, is that all right? That was long. That was my.
That's yeah, no, it's really
Is that all
interesting. You've
right?
hit on it's quite a few. Yeah, that's I'd love to have a follow-up question, but I don't. We don't know. We can't. Okay. Question 4 then. So, is describing your experience effective learning outcomes from the educational use of technology in formal education?
Well, look, again, I think, if the learning's designed well, I think it can do great things. It can improve creativity and collaboration. And, but I'd always go back to that thing. It's about the learning design. And, if I think of my own course with Edinburgh, I've been an online student now for the last 4 years. And it was just the most amazing learning experience, because that course was carefully built to be delivered online. And there was such a social aspect as well of us connecting as students, people all around the world. And their use of tech was amazing. I mean, we had our Moodle classroom was our home base, but then they had us off doing a load of stuff, kind of reflective diaries and blogging in groups of 4 and collaborative essay writing. We had classes in Minecraft as well. We'd kind of meet in Minecraft and do classes there. So look, the tech was amazing, but it was how that course was designed, and it was the human contact that you had, just working with amazing tutors in Edinburgh and amazing fellow classmates from all around the world. You know what I mean? and the tech enabled all of that.
Brilliant. Yeah, really interesting. Okay, so these are the easy questions now. So what is your philosophy of education?
I'd never thought about that. I honestly don't know if I have a philosophy of education. I suppose I think, well, about my own education, and like I was really lucky, and I just had really happy times in my secondary school in Holy Faith in Clontarf, and I arrived knowing no one in that school. I didn't come from a feeder school, and I just looked out with amazing language teachers and a great career guidance teacher who told me about a course that was starting in Trinity on European Studies, and I was the first person in my family to go to university. So I think education gave me a lot of amazing opportunities. So yeah, I think it's about opportunities and empowering young people to thrive. I think in a very complex and very rapidly changing world, really to get them ready for the complexity that they'll face. And yeah, inclusive education as well, I think is really, really important. So yeah, I suppose when you start to work in education, you kind of think back to your own kind of childhood, and you're grateful for opportunities you had and amazing teachers. And yeah, so is that all right?
That's really interesting
Sure.
because you mentioned empowerment as well previously when you were talking about empowering schools.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's definitely what we need to do. I think the top down stuff is important, and the strategies and the vision, but I think you need to, like I said earlier, I think the unit of change is the school, and that's where we need to look at how we can encourage the school to keep on growing and learning and being open and connecting and having partnerships with other schools as well. So yeah.
Really interesting. Okay, question 6 then. In your experience, how is knowledge transferred?
That's another tough one. How is knowledge transfer? Listen, I suppose I've talked about kind of collaboration and learning together, and I think that's something that we probably do at European level is we kind of connect and bring people together. So, in my work, I'd bring together policy people, um, you know, researchers, schools and teachers. And what I love is the kind of when you bring like peers together, just like the magic happens. It doesn't matter what country you're in or how your education system's designed. It's like just that experience of being an educator transcends the rest. You know what I mean? So we did a workshop on blended learning there last week, and we had people from loads of different countries, and we put them in breakout rooms with some questions, and we just had to kind of stand back, and it was just fabulous to see those conversations happening. So that's something I love about my work, is kind of connecting people and bringing people together from all these different places. So definitely peer learning. I think teachers learn really well from teachers, schools learn well from other schools. So yeah, uh,
Yeah.
definitely the collaborative piece.
Okay, brilliant. Really interesting. Question 7. What pedagogy best supports the educational use of technology and why?
That's I don't, is that a trick question? Because yeah, the pedagogy has to come first, and the technology has to follow, I think. So I was wondering, is that, did you want to prompt that answer? But I always think it should be about pedagogy and learning, and the tech should follow and play second violin to that. I think, it's always about the learning first. Like thinking of different projects I've seen around Europe, I suppose I've seen like a lot of like project-based learning and real-world learning, and really the kids being really fired up to learn about things that are relevant and meaningful to their lives as well. I was in Denmark just, I think, the last trip a year ago, and it was a Nordic project, so Nordic countries. It was called Craft Project, and I thought craft is, the way you're thinking knitting or sewing, whatever, but craft stood for creating really advanced future thinkers. And it was bringing kids together from these different countries, and they had to identify, a problem, maybe local problem in their school around, I don't know, food waste in the canteen, or bigger issues around, all linked to kind of environment and sustainability. Then the kids were working together across these different countries, different age groups as well. So you had older kids in Norway teaching younger kids in Denmark about kind of plastics in the ocean. And then, there was a group that came to this. It was a learning festival in Denmark that we were at, and they did a kind of Dragon's Den pitch to us. It was our group and a group of eTwinner teachers, and it was just, the buzz was just amazing. And like chatting to the teachers, they were saying it's great for the kids' confidence, and it was all about the design thinking as well. They had to identify the problem, work through solutions and prototype as well. And they could be low tech things up to kind of 3D printed kind of models and whatever. But it was just lovely to be there. A really nice memory of listening to those kids, and you kind of think, yeah, Europe will be okay. If you,
That leads on lovely to the next question then. So formal education in the 21st century should look like because.
Oh, listen, I could go on for a long time about that, but I think it has to look, it's got to be about, I think, meaningful and kind of relevant learning. I think we're facing a lot of challenging issues. If you think about the environmental challenges that we're facing, I think we're going to need our young people to be able to think in complex ways and think across disciplines, design thinking, systems thinking. So yeah, I'd love to see more of that kind of, cooperation across different subjects, a bit like they do in Finland, the phenomenon-based learning, where they decide what phenomenon they're going to look at and they see it from different angles. And I think probably although we've talked a lot about technology, I think the human skills of kind of, interpersonal communication, group work, creativity, collaboration, all those things we can't automate. And they're the skills and the very, I think, it's the very kind of heart of being a human being. I think they're the attributes we'll need to nurture as well, because we'll have more and more AI and automation. But I think those, 21st century skills are really vital as well. So I'd love to see a lot of emphasis on that going forward as well.
That's fascinating. Deirdre, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's lovely to chat.
Absolutely fascinating, and just you're again, another perspective, you know what I mean? And it's European wide and sort of even broader than that. And I just think, we're sort of situated, it's very interesting kind of intersection where we're at right now. And it's just, it's going to be extraordinary to see what happens,
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's you kind of have a different, I suppose, a bit more of a kind of helicopter view and but it's just lovely, I think, to kind of work with countries that are all facing similar challenges in a way. And like I said, it doesn't matter how your system is run. Like, in many ways, a school is a school, and you're trying to get these kids ready for the same world, whatever country you're in. So it's really nice to be part of that, but different to the space that you guys are in as well. So.
Great. So this has been brilliant having you here today, Deirdre, or this evening, I should say, and really, really looking forward now to Saturday morning. I think it's perfect that we got to chat with you and sort of see the context of how what you're working in, and that will help, I think, inform your speech and what you're going to say on Saturday.
I just need to finish the slides now. That's done.
You'll be fine.
They'll be done by Saturday morning, definitely. Yeah. No, it should be great. I'm just looking forward to the whole day. Actually, I'm really. I've told the family I won't be around. I'm at the CESI conference. So, yeah, no, there's loads of different sessions I want to join. So really looking forward to it. It'll be a bit like being home without being home.
Lots of Irish accents.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's great. Dermot, do you want to say anything, or Hassan, or are we good to go?
Do we have time? There was one quick mention there briefly at the start about computer science. Oh. Computer science at primary level, or is that another session down the line? Maybe is it?
I'd love to come back and do another session on that, because Helen knows I've just done my thesis. That was the last module on the degree on Leavenscert computer science. So really looking at that as a case study, and I think there's lots of interesting things happening there, and I think it's really interesting for other countries what's happening in Ireland too. So yeah, no, absolutely could talk about that.
We could even, like maybe we had Tony last time, and and we have Tony and Deirdre. Would that be an idea? Tony, if you're listening?
I don't have to do the questions again, though, do I?
Well, what do you think, Dermot?
You never know. We could get them to collaborate on answers. That's where the magic happens.
Oh, that's absolutely. That would be really interesting. Okay, so that's great. So Deirdre, we'll see you Saturday morning, and thank you so much. And
thanks to you guys. It was a pleasure, really.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Deirdre. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Take care. All the best.
And thank you very much to Hassan as well.
Thanks a million, Hassan.
Oh yeah, no bother at all. And